Good morning, class 10. Today we will be continuing with chapter Federalism. The topic for today is what makes India a federal country. Now, a country in which power is shared or divided between central authority and various constituent units is a federal country. Similarly, in India, the power is shared between the central governments and the state governments, as well as later on the local governments also came into being. Now, you might be confused as what's a constituent state. A constituent state is a state entity that constitutes a part of a sovereign country. The constituent state is a state in a sovereign country. Like in India, there are 28 states. In the previous topic, when we studied coming together federations, we studied that constituent states in a coming together federation have equal power and are strong against the federal government or the central government. While in the holding together federations, the states were weaker against the central government. So continuing with what makes India a federal country, we have earlier seen how small countries like Belgium, Sri Lanka face so many problems of managing diversity. Like in Belgium, there were French people, Dutch people. In Sri Lanka, there were Sinhalas and Tamils. So they had diversity, and we saw that there were fights going on also. What about a vast country like India? India has so many different religions, so many different communities with so many languages, religions and regions. What are the power sharing arrangements in our country, in India? Let us begin with the Constitution. India had emerged as an independent nation after a painful and bloody partition. The partition that happened in 1947 was very painful for a country, and it was also very bloody. Mass killing happened and it was a very painful situation of that time. Soon after independence, several princely states became a part of the country. Before the independence, there were different kings ruling different states, different provinces, and after the independence, the princely states became a part of the country. The Constitution declared India as a union of states. Although it did not use the word of federation, the Indian Union is based on the principles of federalism. What is the principle of federalism? That it shares the power between the central authority and various constituent units. So India is based on the principles of federalism. Let us go back to the 7 features of federalism mentioned above. We can see that all these features apply to the provisions of the Indian Constitution. The Constitution originally provided for a 2-tier system of government, the Union government or what we call the central government, representing the Union of India and the state governments. If we see the features of federalism, if we see the definition, the Indian Constitution provides for federalism. It provides the powers to the state governments, to the local governments as well as to the union government. The Constitution provided for a 2-tier system. In the Constitution, in the beginning, there was written that there will be 2-tier system. There will be 2 governments, the union government that is also called central government, representing the Union of India, the whole of India, and the state government. Later, a 3rd tier of federalism was added. Later, not only Union of India, that is the union government, and the state governments were there, but also a 3rd tier was added. That was the 3rd part of the federalism, panchayats and municipalities. As in any federation, these different tiers enjoy separate jurisdiction. Like I showed you in the previous video with an example that a country like India is divided between states, and the states has its own districts. The India as a whole is run or administered by the union government. or we can call it central government. The states is run or administered by the state government, and the local areas or the districts is being monitored by the panchayats and the municipalities. So it's a 3-tier system. There are 3 tiers, 3 parts of the federalism. As in any federation, these different tiers enjoy separate jurisdiction. They have different areas for their jurisdiction. The Constitution clearly provided a 3-fold distribution of legislative powers between the union government and the state governments. In between the union government and state governments, the powers are being distributed. The legislative or law-making powers have been distributed. Thus, it contains 3 lists. First is the Union List. Union List includes subjects of national importance, such as defense of the country, foreign affairs, banking, communications and currency. Like I told you, the common national interest subjects like banking, defense, foreign affairs, these comes under the central government. They are included in the list because we need a uniform policy on these matters throughout the country. The union government alone can make laws relating to the subjects mentioned in the union list. Only the central government can make the laws of the subjects of the topics included in the union list, like foreign affairs, banking, communication, all the topics that are included in the union list, only the union government or the central government can make laws on it. Next is state list. State list contains subjects of state and local importance, such as police, trade, commerce, agriculture and irrigation. The state government alone can make laws relating to the subjects mentioned in the state list. Concurrent list includes subjects of common interest to both the union government as well as the state governments, such as education, forest, trade unions, marriage, adoption and succession. Both the union as well as the state governments can make laws on the subjects mentioned in this list. If their laws conflict with each other, the law made by the union government will prevail. So whatever topic comes under the concurrent list, both the union and the state governments can make the laws. But if the 2 laws are in conflict with each other, that is, they are differentiating the 2 laws made by the 2 different governments, then the law made by the union government or the central government will be held. So summarizing it, there are 3 lists. Union list. The topics that come in the union list is under the union government, or we can say central government. The topics that come under the state list is under state government. The topics that come under concurrent list, both the union government as well as the state government can make laws on it. But if they are in conflict, if the 2 laws made by them is differentiating, then the union government law is abiding, or the law that is made by the union government is held. Now, what about the subjects that do not fall in any of the 3 lists, or subjects like computer software that came up after the Constitution was made? According to our Constitution, the union government has the power to legislate on these residuary subjects. Now, there are many subjects that have not been included in any of the list. Who will make law in that context? The union government has the power to make legislations or to make laws in the residuary subjects. We noted above that the most federations that are formed by holding together do not give equal power to its constituent units. We studied that holding together gives more power to the central government, and the state governments have powers, but that also differentiate. Different states or different constituent units have different powers. Thus, all states in the Indian Union do not have identical powers, as different states will have different powers. Some states enjoy a special status, like Jammu and Kashmir has its own constitution. Many provisions of the Indian constitution are not applicable to this state without the approval of the state assembly. After the section or article 370 was removed, many things changed, but still many of the states today also have special provision, like the hilly areas gets extra money from the central government. So different states have different provisions. Central government treats different states differently. Even the constitution gives different powers to different states. Indians who are not permanent residents of this state of Jammu and Kashmir cannot buy land or house here. Similar special provisions exist for some other states of India as well. Like I told you, the hilly areas of India has special provision that the central government or the central treasury have to provide funds to hilly areas. So different states of India have different rights, different powers. There are some units of the Indian Union which enjoy very little power. These are areas which are too small to become an independent state, but which could not be merged with any of the existing states, like the union territories in our country. They are too small to be merged with any. They are too small to be given the status of independent state, but they cannot be merged with any other state also. These areas are like Chandigarh or Lakshadweep or the capital city of Delhi are called union territories. Even the Daman and Diu, even Andaman and Nicobar and many other areas are being called union territories because they can't be merged with any other independent state. These territories do not have the powers of a state. The central government has special powers in running these areas. This sharing of power between the union government and the state governments is basic to the structure of the constitution. The structure of the Indian constitution was like that, so that the power is shared between the union government and the state governments. It is not easy to make changes to this power sharing arrangement. The government can't amend or change the constitution easily. The parliament cannot on its own change this arrangement. Any change to it has to be first passed by both the houses of the parliament. What are the two houses of the parliament? The Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. So any change that has to be brought in the constitution in regards to the sharing of power has to be passed by both the houses of the parliament with at least 2/3 majority. At least 2/3 of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha members have to be agreed to the amendment. Then it has to be ratified by the legislatures of at least half of the total states. Then legislatures, that is Vidhan Sabhas, Vidhan Parishads, at least half of the total states should agree with the legislatures, with the amendment. Then only this can be passed. The judiciary plays an important role in overseeing the implementation of constitutional provisions and procedures. Like in the previous video also, I told you, the court or the judiciary has the right to tell the laws, the constitution, to define it. And it has important role in overseeing the implementation of constitutional provision, that the constitutional provision are being implemented properly or not. The procedures are being followed properly or not. In case of any dispute about the division of power, the High Court and the Supreme Court make a decision. Like in the previous video also I told you that if there is a dispute, if there is a disagreement between the central government and the state government about the power sharing, then they can go to the High Court and the Supreme Court, and the dispute is settled in the High Courts and Supreme Courts. The union and state governments have the power to raise resources by levying taxes in order to carry on the government and the responsibilities assigned to each of them. In the previous video also, if you remember, I told you that for autonomous, for independence of the union and state governments, they have different areas from which they can earn the money, from which they can gain the money. That is by levying the taxes. The union government, mostly the union government in India collects the taxes from income tax, house tax, while the state governments collect the tax from entertainment tax, like on the malls and everything. So they have different areas from which they can raise resources, raise money by levying taxes. Like you can see in this map, the India in 1947, during the time of the independence, there were many princely states, Rajputana, Hyderabad, Bangalore. They were ruled by different kings of that time. Even Junagadh and many different states, even Jammu and Kashmir had a Raja, a king at that time. So India was formed by combining all these states into a union. How is federalism practiced? How do we practice federalism? Constitutional provisions are necessary for the success of federalism, but these are not sufficient. You have to have constitutional provisions. You have to have constitution defining the powers for the federalism, but these are not sufficient. If the federal experiments has succeeded in India, it is not merely because of the clearly laid out constitutional provisions. The real success of federalism in India can be attributed to the nature of democratic politics in our country. It is not only because of the constitution that something succeeds. It is that constitutional provisions about the powers, constitution has laid it very neatly and nicely. The powers are very nicely defined, but still the success of federalism in India is because of the nature of democratic politics in our country, is because of the democracy that runs in our country. This ensured that the spirit of federalism, respect for diversity and desire for living together became shared ideals in our country. The democracy, the democratic politics in our country ensured that the spirit of federalism, the power sharing, the diversity and the desire for living together. Even if we have so many religions, different cultures, still we have the desire to live together, became shared ideals in our country. Let us look at some of the major ways in which this happened. How we became a federalism, how we succeeded in remaining a federalism. Linguistic states. The creation of linguistic states was the first and major test for democratic politics in our country. What do you mean by linguistic states? The states built on the language basis. If you look at the political map of India, when it began its journey as a democracy in 1947 and that of 2013. Like I showed you the map of 1947 India. It was divided in so many parts, so many different kings ruled over different provinces, different areas. And then if we see the map of 2013, this is the map of 2013, you can see that there are not as many partitions as in the previous map. You will be surprised by the extent of the change. You can see that how big the change in the two maps can be there. Many old states have vanished and many new states have been created. There were many old states like Mysore, Junagadh, Rajputana, Allahabad, Jabalpur, Baroda. Many of the previous provinces were vanished and many new states have been created. Areas, boundaries and names of the states have been changed. The areas, boundaries and names of the states have been changed. In 1947, the boundaries of several old states of India were changed in order to create new states. In 1947, the boundaries were established again so that we have the new states. This was done to ensure that people who spoke the same language lived in the same state. See, when we started making the map again, when we started that yes, now we have to change the map from so many small parts to a map or to the states where at least there are divisions that can be handled. So at that time it was decided that the states will be divided according to the language. the same language lived in the same state, so that we can include the same language people in the same state. It was the idea of that time. Some states were created not on the basis of language but to recognize differences based on culture, ethnicity or geography. But there were also many states that were not defined according to the language, their boundaries were not defined according to the language but to recognize the differences based on culture, ethnicity or geography. These include states like Nagaland, Uttarakhand and Jharkhand. These states, Nagaland, Uttarakhand and Jharkhand, were made to recognize the differences in the culture, ethnicity or geography. I hope you understand that during the independence there were many different provinces. Hundreds of provinces were there. Now we can't control, like we just became independent and we can't control 100 of the states. So the Constituent Assembly or the government of that time thought of reducing the number of the provinces. So they merged the states that had same language, and they also made some states that recognize the differences based on culture, ethnicity or geography. So in starting, the states were made to symbolize or to show the linguistic differences. When the demand for the formation of states on the basis of language was raised, some national leaders feared that it would lead to the disintegration of the country. Now in the start, when the demand for formation of states, when people demanded that the state should be built on the language basis, the national leaders were afraid that it might lead to the disintegration or the partition of the country again. The central government resisted linguistic states for some time. During the independence period, the central government was against the linguistic states for some time, but the experience has shown that the formation of linguistic states has actually made the country more united. But after some time they made linguistic states, and now we can see that the linguistic states has made the country more united. It has also made administration easier. The linguistic states has made the administration easier. So linguistic states were made so that we can take into account the differences of the people, the differences of the diversity that is in our country. So the states were made on the linguistic basis. That time of the government had some suspicion that if they create states on the linguistic basis, it might broke the country again. But still, the demand for the linguistic states was being upheld and the linguistic states were created. And as we can see now, it actually made the country more united. And the administration is of course easier, because if the Tamil state is being held with Karnataka state, both states have different languages. It would have been difficult to administer the two languages. So separating them in basis of linguistics was very easy, and it provided administration easier.